How's it going, guys? My name is FourFox, and today I want to talk to you about the Prowler. First, I would like to say I'm a huge fan of this ship and I care about its treatment and attention. Especially if you plan on picking up this ship sometime soon, whether in-game or with certain ship sales that's going to be coming up. What I want to do in this video is to just talk to you about what's been going on with my favorite ship. I want to also catch you up to speed with things like nerfs, buffs, the alien tax, and more. So let's begin with ship progress. I would first like to show you footage from the previous 3.13 patch that was released Q2 2021. You can begin to notice that when the ship is not in VTOL mode with the engines facing downwards, the ship will begin to slowly descend, causing the player to correct the flight vector upwards. This normally caused me to tilt the nose of my ship upwards because you can hold the spacebar down, but the thrusters are already in max use, having me to rely on my VTOL engines. Also in atmosphere, any rotation or direction change was slow to move. For a ship that was supposed to be a dropship, it definitely felt more like a 747 passenger plane. Luckily, once you turned on VTOL mode, you were able to escape the gravity of the planet. Now that we have talked about the previous patch and how the Prowler handled, we now head into the current 3.14 patch. Just to make sure that the comparisons are the same, I will fly back to Microtech. So what has changed about the Prowler in this patch? We can see that the Prowler can now stay afloat in atmosphere without the use of its VTOL function. Patch 3.14 brought capacitor gameplay that affected the way all ships managed power. Since every single ship was getting a bit of a rework treatment to the way the ship's shields, weapons, and maneuvering thrusters handled, someone managed to help the Prowler's atmospheric properties. The Prowler is now not so distant to the way the Aegis Vanguard handles. It was a lot of fun to be able to do flight maneuvers so close to the ground again. It's always nice when your favorite ship gets attention. Patch 3.14 has allowed me to brush up on my dropship maneuvers again. I'm still a bit rusty, but I'll be getting the hang of it. Overall, it was nice to be able to fly the ship planetside again. When the Prowler first came out in Q2 2020, this ship was an absolute beast. It was able to not only fly like a fighter, but also hit like a tank thanks to its two massive size 5 weapons. The Prowler was also allowed to slave the top size 3 turret for pilot control that added the cherry on top to be one of the most successful PvE and PvP ships released by CIG. It didn't take very long for the Prowler to be labeled as a pay-to-win ship with its high price tag of $440 US, and to have the word meta closely associated with the ship. Then the nerf hammer came. It is appropriate to say that the Prowler community witnessed one of the most drastic nerfs ever seen in the persistent universe. It's not hard to search and find documentation of just how bad the Prowler was left. Here is what you will find on Spectrum when you look at the Prowler shipyard thread. This user was able to get the maneuverability values of the Valkyrie and compare it to the values of the Prowler. It should also be added that these values have since changed since patch 3.14. But this image can depict how substandard the Prowler was able to maneuver for its primary role of a dropship. Now, to better display in which league the Prowler should be in, another user was able to show the Aegis Vanguard series in comparison to the Prowler. The gray circle are the values of the Prowler. But with the rebalance of 3.14, I am hopeful that the worst is now behind us. So let's talk about the alien tax. Now, the alien tax is a difficult subject to talk about. There are a few ships that got the alien tax treatment, like the Banu Defender. You could also mention the Banu Merchantman too, but I think there was a lot of other factors that went into the price increase with that ship, but a factor nonetheless. You also have the Alien Talon series. I'm sure there was others too that were surprised that the pricing was very competitive for its class. But the Prowler is in another league of its own. Even the Scythe, a medium Vandal fighter, was sold for $300 for the one time it went on sale. You then have a $140 gap between the Scythe and the Prowler. Even the heavy dropship, the C2 Hercules, that was designed to drop vehicles, cargo, have living spaces, and under special circumstances, dropping off units in conjunction with the vehicles, is already a superior value for $40 less. The Prowler is an expensive ship for what it offers compared to other ships. At the moment, the Ares Starfighter and Inferno ships are priced at $220 each, and buying both of those will still be the same price as the Prowler. Generally, the only way you are able to lower the cost of a ship is through CCU war bond upgrades, but that's a whole nother story. Yes, the ship has an inflated rarity tax applied to the ship, and I do believe that the ship's price should be lowered, but there hasn't been a single ship whose price has been lowered yet in the history of ship pricing. It is also important to note that the Prowler still has technology and gameplay that has yet to be developed. Let's not forget that the Prowler was meant to deliver troops onto capital ships and overtake them. And for a lot of people, $440 is still a lot cheaper than buying a Kraken. The Prowler also has Gravlev technology that allows the ship to further lower its emissions by just hovering above ground level. This technology is supposed to allow the Prowler to act as a flight and ground vehicle hybrid. You wouldn't need to purchase a ground vehicle if you already own a Prowler. With most ground vehicles being around the $40 to $60 range, the Prowler is currently the best capable ground vehicle troop transporter. This feature was presumably considered in the cost of the Prowler. Next, we will be talking about the Prowler's pledge cost to in-game pricing ratio. Now, the pledge cost to alpha UAC ratio is something we should be taking lightly. Trading should be getting a rework soon, and we should be seeing a lot of pricing changes, and change dynamically. But the cost to own a Prowler used to be somewhere in the low to mid 2 million alpha UAC to purchase in-game. It only recently went up in price because CIG was realizing that players were purchasing the ship not to use it, but because the Prowler came with two size 2 Sucheron shield generators that had the highest shield capacity in-game. Players would purchase the ship only to transfer the shield generators over to other ships, so they bumped up the price to the now standing 4.2 million alpha UEC. Also to note, while we're talking about the Prowler shields, is that the Prowler and the Talon ships will be having another type of shield called the Failing Shield Generators once the supported gameplay for those shields come in. But for now, the Sucherons will be the default. Now, if you take the 4.2 million alpha UEC and divide that number by its pledge cost of 440, you will get a number of 9,655 alpha UEC per dollar. You can then use this ratio to compare it to other ships. The Prowler ranks in the bottom 20% compared to other ships. It is in 92nd place out of 116. I think this is a good price for someone to be able to work towards earning the ship in-game instead of purchasing it, while also reflecting that the Prowler is about 2 times the amount of alpha UAC needed to purchase its Vanguard counterparts. Now let's talk about some bugs. I went to global chat and someone agreed to help me test out if the turrets on the Prowler were still bugged. The cool thing about Star Citizen is that there is a lot of helpful people willing to help you out. Global chat just about never fails me. Once he is on board, we're able to move a bit away from the station. As for me, I'm the pilot in the pilot seat of the ship, which is the upstairs seat. The co-pilot is on the bottom, and the only weapons that are able to use are the top turret weapons. My co-pilot is able to control the two main size 4 deadbolt weapons only. He is able to describe that since they are on gimbal mounts by default, he is able to have an extremely limited amount of turn and control on them. I should also mention that this is patch 3.14 and that there is a chance that it could get fixed in 3.15, but I think I'll leave that to another video. After he helped me check if the turrets were still bugged, which they were, I thanked him for helping me and I take him back to the landing pad and drop him off. But it genuinely makes me happy how helpful people are. Also, if you're able to notice, the ship's paint is also all white instead of its default darker color. There is a bug that is affecting its default skin to turn whitish. Luckily, I own a few skins so it doesn't bother me much. The bugged paint kind of reminds me of the white polar camo paint. Another thing I wanted to show that's not necessarily a bug is the ship's hull hit points compared to other similar ships. It's lower than the Cutlass, which is a bit surprising considering that the Prowler is an armored dropship. That's really all the major bugs that are in. The next thing I wanted to show you guys was a bit of PvP. Now, I don't PvP often, and I am still super rusty. But I do have a verbal throttle and a Logitech joystick that I have some muscle memory with, which was able to help me some, but I was able to record someone who started a skirmish with me while I was attending the Xeno Threat event. I was up against an Aegis Gladius, a light fighter. Something that was difficult to do was to be able to turn my ship fast enough in order to have them within my gimbal targeting range. Capacitor gameplay was supposed to balance the whole light, medium, and heavy fighter roles, so it's hard to say that the state the Prowler's maneuverability was left in was intentional. But he was able to maneuver quickly around my ship several times and score tons of damage when I couldn't really keep him in front of my ship. I generally don't mind that I lost the fight, and I don't completely blame the maneuverability of the ship, but I think I would have been able to better defend myself if I had a co-pilot in the turret and posed an equal threat. The turret would have made up for my mobility. Now let's talk about the future of the Prowler. There are quite a few missing features that have yet to be implemented for the ship. A nice to have will be a storage area for the 16 troops you'll be carrying that will allow you to put food, ammo, and medical supplies into a small compartment. This change will allow for real-time troop flexibility when entering and leaving a combat theater. The Prowler's height also makes it difficult to be brought on carriers, so having the extra equipment is a nice to have on medium to extended operations. Another feature is the GravLev tech. This feature is supposed to allow you to skim the ground of planets, and apparently allow you to hook onto capital ships. This will allow you to let troops off with precision for a boarding party on corvette and capital-sized ships. Ships like the Polaris are designed with wide corridors to support this type of boarding gameplay as well. But what I am recommending is that this ship's hooking feature should allow the pilot to carry a light vehicle, similar to how medevacs in StarCraft can carry tanks around. Having a vehicle underneath the Prowler will also limit the ability to deploy troops below, depending on how narrow the latched vehicle is. But I don't think this will be an issue if the Prowler becomes the most capable, rapid redeployment ship. It would allow the pilot to prioritize what he is picking up in a battlefield, making personnel runs first, and then switching to vehicle runs, or doing both on the way out. The Prowler's cargo of personnel and vehicles will probably remain empty the majority of the time on an active operation anyways. It would allow the pilot to have a bit more flexibility and utility. The only limitation I would implement is the ability to bring in vehicles from atmosphere, and to disable quantum when a vehicle is hooked. Another thing I would consider disabling is the ability to tow big ships out of atmosphere. The Valkyrie and the Hercules series ships would not be able to micromove ships around as quickly as a trained Prowler pilot, given the size and dimensions of both of those ships. It would make multiple personnel and vehicle redeployments on the battlefield in quick succession. Another recommendation is the removal of the ladder on the left side of the ship. There is a drop door only a few steps away, and the entry ramp on the rear is more than sufficient. What I would do instead is create a Titan suit hookup that would allow a Titan suit to be hooked to the bottom of the ladder mechanism, and in the same way the ladder is brought up to the ship, brings the Titan suit up with it. Maybe you will be allowed to enter and exit the Titan suit from the ship if the entry of the suit is on the rear. The right side of the ship does have another bald spot where you could attach another Titan suit, but given that there's a ladder nearby to bring you to the second floor inside of the ship, I would still recommend only one Titan suit hookup on the left side of the ship. I would also recommend that if a Titan suit has a capacitor that limits the distance and ammunition it carries, the Prowler's ability to externally hook and charge a Titan suit should be of a higher tier. Even an extra variant for the Prowler that would allow for multiple Titan suit deployments would be well received. Thanks so much for staying to the end. Originally, I intended this to be released around the time 3.14 went live, but now I find myself finishing it around the time 3.15 is going live. But hopefully still useful with the annual sale coming up. I also created 2 audio files from scratch for this video, and I'll probably make more in the future when introducing new topics. I taught myself a lot of things for this video, like how to edit with Shotcut, and I feel like I'm at a pretty good point where I can express myself comfortably with the software. In the future, I intend to record my whole script from a single audio file, instead of the way it's separated, just for more consistency. The script that I created for this video is about 17 pages long, but about 6 or 7 of those pages are used for the images that I saved for this video. Let me know how I could improve. I'm a big fan of stealth ships, and I really do think that this ship has a lot of potential to become versatile in the future. Maybe CIG will use this video as a reference before they begin a gold standard pass, but who knows. I'll see you later, guys.